your own question?
Probably not. Yeah, sure.
All right. So,
though,
go ahead.
not a lawyer and not an accountant, and the advice that I give is not particularly. Is this being recorded?
It is being recorded. Yes.
Okay, then all right. Then now I know how to answer my questions. All right, what was the question that this asshole asked?
So before we get into that, before we get into the questions, we had a suggestion in the chat if Miko would be open to coming on Google Meet and someone can stream.
Oh, that's an idea. Here, Josh, why don't you answer that question for yourself? And then I'm going to try and see if we get him on a Google Meet and maybe I can share my screen.
I want to answer my own question. I want Miko to answer my question. We can do do you need a streaming software? I have a streaming software.
It's okay. Let me try this Google Meets thing, and if it doesn't work, I don't want to waste his time or everyone else's time, especially if we can get some of the basic things answered, you know. But here, I'll try this. Go ahead and answer that question, and if I can't get it sorted, then we'll scrap it. The Miko part.
Yeah, maybe we can bounce over to Jordan's question and then over to Spidey's. Do you see it, Josh?
Yes. Although I don't have experience investing in games, so I don't want to give bad advice here.
Completely fine. Give what you can, and if the question is not appropriate for you, we can just move on to the next. Maybe a more general one, like Spidey asking,
does the pitch deck really matter?
Yes.
It depends. It depends on the investor you're in front of. Everybody has their own kind of quirks. Like you'll see if you go on like VC Twitter, like some people will be like, "Oh, it's about the warm intro," and some people will be like, "Yeah, the pitch deck needs to be perfect." It really depends on who your audience is and who you're trying to talk to. For me, the pitch deck doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to get across the information that I'm looking for. There are like some finer things of like if you've got 10 decks in front of you and you're only allowed to make 2 deals, like one of the things that you can do to check to like whittle it down is like, does this deck have typos? It's like if they didn't put the care into preparing the deck with, you know, decent English structure, or like overlapping, you know, if it doesn't look as a good presentation, like is the product going to turn out that well? It's kind of like a first like easy test. I've never dinged someone that hard for not having a deck or for having not a perfect one.
But if your project does entail, and you know, a lot of companies do require pitch decks, even to open up conversation with them. In the expert Q&A, Spidey, we've had several people share their pitch decks and get some feedback and practical next steps to improve it. We have Delroy in the audience as well. I know he's reviewed a bunch and he's helped a bunch as well. I think Jordan has offered his pitch deck for review. I think Helio has helped out with reviewing as well. So that's an option for you. I know this is, you know, this is not the perfect answer that you were looking for, but yeah, this is something that we can help out with you know, in the meantime, and we can bring Miko back another time for you to get a more straightforward, a more blunt response to your question.
I don't know if a blunt response is. I mean, like yes, but you do want to hear from multiple people because. Like part of my it depends is every investor is going to answer that question differently. Like obviously you should try to put your best foot forward.
So I have a question that's come up a couple different times. So if you're a founder who doesn't have a network, like say that you're bootstrapped and now it's at the point where you need capital to hit your next major milestone, so it's time to meet some angels, right? Like if you're a founder without a network at all, how would you recommend they find angels and kind of start that conversation?
That's a good question. I've met a few founders who've had this problem. One of the common answers I get one of the offers is to go out and build that network. It's kind of like a first like early tell. If like nobody, like some people, they see they like, oh, this is a stellar founder, they've got a thing, it's a slam dunk, like they'll want to be that first money in the door. But often a lot of investors don't want to. They FOMO, and so they'll want to like they'll invest because other people are investing, right? And this is part of the warm intro, cold intro conundrum. Is like if you can't find yourself a way to get a warm intro, like how are you going to be able to build a team? Like how are you going to how are you going to network to find the employees who are going to come work for you? There's a ton of meetups in most cities. Like you can find. I actually don't know about gaming meetups. I bet there are. There's a lot of Web3 meetups.
So it's almost.
I think my city has a. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I've heard this before, but it's almost like a. And this might sound harsh, but it's almost like a filter, right? Like
it is.
Like if you're not scrappy enough to go out and like blunt force your way into a network or build relationships with people to like help your project succeed, that could be a really strong indicator that like maybe you just don't have the skill set quite yet to have a successful startup, which is, there's been millions of amazing products built, but the difficult part is connecting it to a customer or user base or partners that would value it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming
to these discords, this is another good community. Like one of the things that's really important is to get yourself out there, but like in person and like on these calls.
All right. So I was finally able to connect with Miko. Still having challenges with the Discord stuff, so I'm gonna have to get him in at another time. But
yeah, he texted me. It seems that there's a on one of the pages, it wanted him to enter a password, and I was like, I think that's probably just an ad, and he just needs to find a different button.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so we got a bunch of questions coming through here. Let's see if we've missed any. Do you recommend building a game demo to ask for funding, or is it better to get feedback first, iterate on that, and then build out a demo? This is from HD Olivares. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Yeah, Josh, I guess, do you want to take a first crack at that one?
So not from a game specific, but from like a product. So it depends on the round and like how much you're asking for and what you're asking for. I'm helping a company right now in Austin raise a pre-seed, and a lot of the investors we talked to were like, you should probably be doing a seed and have an MVP ready for us. And so that's kind of like the difference of like how much money, how much of your company are you willing to give away early on? Some of the earliest checks, they're going to take a little bit more, but will help you to get that MVP. Whereas if you've got the resources to be able to put an MVP together, then you can skip that like pre-seed or friends and family and try to do like a proper seed round. And that's the answer to almost every question is going to be, it depends, because no two situations are the same. You've got one founder who's got $1 million in the bank and they're doing a second thing versus a founder who's, washing dishes, trying to like break into the tech scene. And like, they're not going to be able to approach the same problem the same way.
I'll add on to that too. So in the Gaming Startup Collective, we've had a couple Web3 VCs and Web3 gaming founders kind of talk about the process. And what they've shared is like, you yourself need to determine what your MVP is. Like, don't let the investors dictate that to you. And then you need to find investor partners who align with like your vision is behind that, right? And so for some teams, if you've shipped games before, maybe you don't have to create like a playable alpha to prove that you can do it. If it's your first time shipping a game, or like your founder team are like first time founders, then maybe you would need to prove more in terms of your capability in order to be successful in your fundraising. All right, moving through here. Trancy said, is it much harder to raise for a pre-seed round versus a token round? And, I think a broader question to that is, are VCs still doing token rounds? I thought it flipped to equity.
I'm going to give my favorite answer here. It depends.
Ooh.
Again, I think it depends on like who you're trying to raise from, like what arena, like, and whether like what's in demand. So like about a year ago, all the crypto VCs were like trying to get into AI and they were trying to buy up what they could. So it's a founder's market, right? So the founder can sell whatever they want. And then I also think there's a difference between trying to raise from like one of the big guys versus, like some Russian with $5 million that's like, oh, I have a VC. We do token deals, or a DAO that's just doing DAO to DAO investments, and they're not able to take equity. They're only able to do token deals. DXDAO was doing that for a long while. In which case, you're doing token warrants if you don't have a token yet. And then you have the U.S. non-U.S. question, which is if you're going to exclude Americans, the preference may be to just go off and sell a token because you know that you're not going to be regulated by the SEC. So it depends, and what the appetite is among either like what stage you are and the investors that you have at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm. I think that's maybe that's not the answer we all want to hear, but I think that's the best answer. Is that it's really quite dependent.
Oh, what did you want to hear? I can change my answer.
No, man. No, we want the hard hitting facts.
That was a joke. Well, I don't know if there are facts because there's so much subjectivity, and like I haven't built a unicorn, right? And I haven't been on the VC side of investing in a unicorn, not yet. So like it's all subjective.
I guess that's the beauty of these conversations is we can pick little pieces off from everybody and hopefully get pointed in the general correct direction. All right, cruising through here. So Grand Marquis had a question. Now I'm wondering if the first part may have been addressed to Miko, who again we had some challenges with, but he said you're investing in projects across several verticals in Web3. What did these projects, especially at an early stage, have in common that gave you conviction to invest? And then his follow-on question was, are you more prioritizing team or are you more prioritizing product market fit? Good questions. Josh, do you want to crack those?
I'll just give the Buffcorn Ventures answer real quick. We focus significantly more on team and what we believed in these teams to be capable of, rather than worrying about product market fit. Because like we only invest in first money in the door, so it's pre-seed. It's like these are hackathon and like the whole point of it is quit your job, go build the hackathon project that you just won 20-30 grand with, and like spend 6 months to a year like building it. And so it's more about experimentation in the ecosystem and trying to build building blocks that may be able to do something for the ecosystem, be a positive effect for good. So inside of our thesis, it's not so much like, do we think you have a good idea? It's more of like, you as a founder, do you have a positive track record? Did you assemble a team around you that is also willing to quit their jobs and is competent at laying code and is going to show a lot of these cases in crypto investing? Like you'll find a team and you've got a deck that's got 12 people listed on a deck, and like 9 of them have full-time jobs somewhere else, and so it's like okay, what am I actually investing in? And it's so common, and it's like one of the questions you have to ask people. It's like, okay, of these people, like run through your roster, who's working on this full time? And that can be like one of the most important questions that you get asked when you're raising funds. Like, don't just throw people on because you think the name, or like, I got thrown on a deck once because I worked at Consensus, and this guy was like, no, I want you on my slide because you worked at Consensus. It'll add weight to the thing. It's like, that's not, no, it won't. I promise it won't. So there's.
It,
Did I
okay.
give another? It depends, or did I answer that one?
No, man, you crushed it. But I have a follow up on it then. So you talked about like founding team members or equity owners working full-time jobs, or maybe in multiple startups. I'm curious, like, what does your due diligence process look like when like a debt comes across your desk and you're trying to validate, okay, are these guys like all in, or are they like half in, half out? Like, what does that process typically look like?
What does the due diligence process look like?
Yeah, exactly.
Usually just asking questions. People don't usually lie about that stuff, especially because if you lie on due diligence, like you can, like those are legal problems. Like you're going to court and you're probably going to lose. 'Cause you can't lie to investors. I can't remember the exact. Someone over here, I want to help me out on what's the like. There's like the SEC is like real strict about lying to investors. You just cannot do it. That's why a lot of these calls are recorded. Yeah, just ask the questions. There's some like LinkedIn digging. Like, there's nothing wrong with in Web3. Like, I have 3 different part-time jobs right now, right? And I'm probably on at least 1 or 2 decks that are raising. It's a part of the ecosystem and how it works. It's just like as a founder, when you're answering these questions, don't oversell someone's participation because you think it'll serve the narrative. It'll come back to bite you.
Mm.
Be honest. It would be my advice.
It kind of feels like for a lot of this, it boils down to relationship building. You know, being trustworthy, forthright. You know, admitting the fact that maybe you don't
Yeah.
have all the answers, and that you're looking for a
Yeah,
partner to
well,
like fill in
and
your blanks.
yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. And then another thing to consider is investors that you bring onto your seed round, especially if it's not just like all angels, is like these are your partners that are going to be around for a while. Like you. Okay, I don't know if I want to give this as financial advice, but like you shouldn't just go out and look for investors that are just going to write a check and fuck off, because they're not going to help you. There's no value add there. Like anybody can write you a check, right? But you want someone who's like industry specific and or has some sort of like ability to help you hire, and can connect you to their other portfolio companies and et cetera, right? But most importantly, you're probably going to have to raise again. And so if you're not being honest with the people you're raising in the first round, like they're not going to follow on, and they're probably going to tell their friends not to follow on when you go to raise again if you lied to them. The VC community is super tight. And I know this because I'm on the outside. And I don't get invited to the cool kid table. But they all talk. All of them talk.
I feel like you should be at the cool kid table, man. Like the whole Buffacorn, like ETH. Come on, man. What are they doing? They need to open the door, let you slide through.
We have our own cool kid club, but like our checks are like $50,000 to $250,000, and so the cool kid club is like when you're writing $1 million checks. You know, we're not there yet, but we will be soon.
Okay, so this is going to take me on another somewhat relevant tangent. For the people who don't know, can you explain where VCs get their money from, and maybe like some of their concerns or considerations around how they deploy it, like the frequency that they have to deploy, the returns that are expected from the people they've taken the money from, just for folks who maybe aren't familiar with how that side of the coin works?
Sure. Here's another classic, Josh. It depends. So let me start with no, there is like a clear answer here, but it also depends. So Buffcorn Ventures is very specifically all right. So the easy answer is other people's money. The person who is like in these meetings is not usually writing over their own money. It is the case that some VCs are invested in their own funds. Most of them do have to have some skin in the game. So there's limited partners, and then there's general partners. The LPs are usually the ones who they'll write a check to join the fund, but they don't take an active participation in any of the like investing and due diligence stuff. They'll just kind of read reports. Some are more active than that, of course. Every VC is different, so this is why it's a broadly inside of the answer of it depends. And then you've got GPs who generally do have to write a check, and it varies by size of fund and type and whatever, so that they do have skin in the game, so they're not just like signing away other people's money. And a lot of the guys and women who are involved in these deals get something that's called carry, in which if they make an investment deal and you take off and you have another round and an exit and everybody gets money, everybody gets rich, they're getting a cut of that. And so they very specifically, like, so they've got, their day job where they've got a heavy plate of, they've got to take X amount of meetings and write X amount of memos and make X amount of deals per year. But they also have to make sure that they're making good deals, because if they invest in all duds, they're not making that variable comp. And that's where they get rich, is investing in the right deals and being able to carry and make that big those bonuses, right? So that answers one side of the question. With Buffcorn Ventures, we did a couple of the major Web3 companies, and DAOs gave us grants, and the rest are LPs. So like Harmony wrote a $500,000 grant, meaning they don't have any investment into the fund. They don't have any like economic rights to the fund, but they just want to support the ecosystem. And then you've got like Near and Polygon and a bunch of smaller angels. I don't think Miko joined that. So he's not here to defend himself, so I'm not gonna say, damn Miko, you should have joined. Maybe next year. And so basically anybody who invested in the fund, like we did it all on chain, so the money's in a DAO, and if at any point the LPs wanted to withdraw their funds, they could rage quit a pro rata amount of what's left in the fund, which is we did an on-chain thing, which is unique. It's not common. But anybody who joined that Moloch DAO has access to the Discord and the Charmverse, and actually Summon soon. When that, I don't know if this is not public, so this stays here.
In the recording.
It's public in the recording. By the time this comes out, or if this ever gets reproduced, it'll be public. So we're like weeks away from deploying. But Buffcorn Ventures is going to use Summon, which you guys all used here to become citizens. Like me, I love being a citizen. It's one of my favorite things. To like token gate access to deal memos and that kind of stuff. And some of the bigger funds do something similar, just off chain and with like Google Drive and stuff like that. Huh. Did I answer the whole question?
Yeah. No, you really did. You crushed it.
Other people's money, OPM. Always remember that.
Other people's money. So, okay. So in that dynamic, like where we've lived through a pretty deep bear, a lot of those limited partners maybe don't have as much capital as they did.
Yeah.
And so like, I imagine that makes the job of a VC very stressful, because you're trying to squeeze, lemons out of a rock in the market, but you got the people who gave you the money, maybe needing it back.
In a lot of cases, they actually don't even have the money yet. And this is what one of the cascading problems from the FTX started with Luna, but the FTX contagion. This is one of the problems. So when someone like ASIC, here's a good example. Bankless Ventures just raised a $30 million fund. That doesn't mean that $30 million is sitting in a bank account somewhere, because, and I don't remember the exact details from the deck, but the capital calls are like 10%, 30%, 30%, 30%, or something like that, which means that, like, to close the fund and have the deal, like, have it ready to go, they only needed, of that 30 million, 3 million sitting in a bank account, because they only called 10% of the commitments. And as time goes by, those commitments are called and they're able to deploy more capital in these deals. So what happens during this bear market, and this is all like conjecture, not all conjecture, it's somewhat conjecture. A lot of the funds that were operating in the space were actually, milestone-based commitment. That's a good one, Camper. A lot of the funds were actually storing their commitments in FTX. And so when Sam went on a spending spree, like, was investing in all these politicians, it was with these funds' money, allegedly. This is one of the things that it's still being shaken out, that a lot of these funds have not, I think that they're maybe hiding it from their investors a little bit, because they're just waiting to see if they can get the money back before they have to start getting into some shit. But it's, I can't say definitively that's what's happening, because it's conjecture. We assume that all of this capital not being deployed is not being deployed because it can't be deployed, because it's not there anymore. And this also happened with Genesis and BlockFi. And so the funds that were storing their funds on chain, absolutely fine, still deploying capital, because they were self-custodying their money and they were living their values. And this is another one of the things that you want to pay attention to, especially gaming industry. If you're raising from the gaming industry, still going to be banking and wires probably, right? But if it's Web3 niche gaming, and when you say, hey, you can send the USDC to this multi-sig, and they're like, no, we only send wires, it's maybe is that a red flag? I don't know. I don't invest in this space specifically to be able to say if that's a red flag or not. But to me, it would be. I don't like people who can't use USDC. It's just too easy.
Can you expand on that a little bit? What's your fear or concern in that situation?
My concern, because I'm a decentralization maximalist rather than a gamer maximalist, which I'm in the process of converting. Or the games I'm failing. My concern would be that if you're trying to build a Web3 game and you take money from pure gaming industry, it's on them for writing the check, but maybe they won't be as on board with the Web3 stuff. And so, the next time the SEC does some sort of bullshit regulatory crackdown that we all know isn't going anywhere, but it spooks them, and they're like, no, you got to pivot. You got to cut the Web3 stuff out. Are you going to buckle to the investor that has 20% of your cap table, or are you going to, you know what I mean? You don't want to put yourself, and this goes back to the question that I asked because I wanted Miko to answer. How do you involve more of the community? I'm part of two very large communities that don't have investors who can dictate terms. SporkDAO doesn't have investors. Opolis doesn't have investors. It does have investors, but investors that don't have governance rights, because the way the cooperative was designed, the members, the citizens of the cooperative have that power, and so we don't have that issue doesn't come up. And when we get further deeper into this next cycle, and the deals start getting structured and becomes a founder's market again. Right now, it's a bear market. Everyone's struggling for oxygen, right? But once everybody and their mom is deploying smart contracts and they're raising money, and it's the money will be flowing much easier once ETH is back at 4,000, because instead of having to write a 10 ETH check, I'm able to write a 3 ETH check. You know what I mean? The founders will be able to dictate terms a little bit better, and I think we should be really focusing on these Web3 terms that empower the community rather than empower investors. Now, obviously, it's their capital, and they should be able to deploy it how they want. And, we live in a capitalist society. I know I said it with a tone, but like we do. We live in a capitalist society where like they can put their money into treasuries at 5%, or they can take a risk on your game and your company and potentially, 10x, 100x, 500x. And that's a risk that they're taking. So they have every right to try to dictate terms. But you have to remember it's your company and you should be dictating terms. That's my financial, not financial advice.
Boom. Boom. All right. So we got 3 minutes here. 12:08 a.m. I am so sorry. I was thrown off my game by the struggle to get Miko on. I just realized you're on the
Are you
stage.
off by a half hour?
Huh?
Who's on the stage?
12:08 a.m.
Yeah. So
I'm like, it's not that time. It's like 12:45.
How little you think of me, man. Come on, Joshua.
I don't. Nice to meet you, 12:08. I'll take a seat.
Yeah. So Ryan, to your earlier question about what can people do if they are working on a project, they're coming into this space without a network. What can you do to wait? He left. But what can you do to expand your network and like have more reach? And 1208, he joined the Game 7 Discord and he wanted to share a story of like how he was able to meet people and like get him off the foot. And if we have time, maybe we can bring Jordan on the table as well. I think he's had a lot of positive experiences and he's been able to leverage the Game 7 community in a way that works for him and is fun for him. So if we have time and if he wants.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, 1208, is your mic working? We can't hear you if you're talking.
Just blame all
That's
the
all
technical difficulties on me. It's all No Auto's fault.
You're good, man. We live and we learn, and we've run into Discord issues in the past too. So like we've had to move our like 40% calls onto Google Meets to make sure to include everyone.
So 1208, make sure that your computer settings are the same as your Discord settings, because those will always get screwed up and I have to go into both and make sure that they're connected to my headphones. Because I'm a stupid boomer.
Yeah, Discord audio is incredibly annoying. And frequently, like it'll pop up that hello everyone. It'll pop up that it'll pop up a notification saying like, oh, we've detected something new. Do you want to change? And like the answer is no, but it makes you think you want to say yes.
I think it's working now.
Hey, there you
go. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? But okay, just to introduce myself, I'm from the perspective of like a developer. I do have a question or two. I guess I can share a little background. I find myself producing this game. I've been working on it for like a year and a half or two. I've been working with partners for the whole time that I've been kind of putting it out there in the world. We're preparing ourselves to release the demo, basically beta 1.0, next month, and then continue developing through next year. But like I mentioned, I'm in a peculiar place where I've gotten some significant interest from partnerships in the last couple of years. I landed a third partner recently. I see him in the crowd right now. How you doing, Delroy? But what I just wanted to ask was like, or here, the way I got connected through my partners thus far was I approached them with offering them a service that they needed, which was, graphics, 3D animations, and that's how I approached them as far as them getting to know me as a person and as a worker. So that opened the doors for me with ModaDAO, and they brought me in as their metaverse experience designer. So what I did was I very quickly in 6 months put together a metaverse and Decentraland for them last year. We hit the Metaverse Music Festival in 2022. We had like over 50 performances, so we had like a really ambitious space where I really hit the nail on the head as far as trying to make an EDM centered space within the Central Land. So we were going for a warehouse type party, and they were really happy with all of that. And that gave me a chance to work with them for over a year, which then led to our business partner relationship, right? They knew I was working on this game the whole time. I kept it in my back pocket and on the weekends. And then when after a year came up, we started talking about like what I was doing with my game on the side, and we started talking more as far as partnership goes. And that's been the last 3 or 4 months or 5 months now. And so we're coming to the close of the year. We're preparing to release and show everything that I've been working on, and start gathering our community, of course. But like this is where I find myself. I have no runway left with my team, but we've put together a whole product where it includes character NFTs, token collecting, and the whole thing's based around this music game, right? So that's how I gained trust with someone to give me, money and partnership and guidance, because that's been the main thing that I've been learning from these guys after these like year and a half or two is all the business side of things, which I was completely ignorant to before, right? And so what's interesting these days is I've obviously got a couple of really good partnerships that not only fit the game, but like are going to open up doors for me as far as music and the music industry. And what I'm wondering right now is, before we start pitching to angel investors, what is an angel investor like the best strategy to move forward with the particular position I'm in, where we have the product built, we're working on all the marketing stuff, our runways is over, but we want to put out the product late this year, early next year, and I'm trying to
Um,
strategize as to what would be the best way to attract not only an investor, but like I'll obviously have them giving me the a maximum amount of investment money, and how to convince them to do that. Now, I was going to ask, should I put the demo on the market for anyone to play? Should I keep it gated, so that only people who invest money into the project get to play it? Or is there any other strategy for me to like take this company to the next step, so that we can have a community and the funding there in place, right? I know it's a heavy question, but if anybody has any advice,
no, that was a great question.
I would really appreciate it, because that's where I find myself going from 2023 to 2024.
So I don't know this well in the music and gaming industry specifically, but like you sound like you're a perfect candidate for an incubator. And there's a lot of incubators out there that want to
Incubators.
see, yeah, they want to see like at least some sort of product, so you're kind of ahead of the game.
Mhm.
Like Y Combinator is like the biggest and most well known, and then there's the other ones that are like we're not Y Combinator. I know Techstars does a decent. Like I would be wary of some of the smaller incubators that like overpromise and underdeliver, but some of the
Okay.
bigger names are. I mean, they'll take what 7% of the company or something, but
Right.
they're like, yeah. Where are you based, if you don't mind saying?
I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot out there. California is a mecca for incubation.
That's good to know.
That would be my first. Anybody else want to take a shot?
Incubations. Thanks, man. Wrote all this down.
I guess just a quick comment. It's really exciting at what stage you're at.
Yeah, it's super exciting, man. Like I see all these opportunities. I just don't know where we're going next. Yeah.
There's
Yo, I was just gonna throw in a piece of an answer, which is I can't really think of a situation in which players having played your game is unhelpful to
Okay.
getting into an incubator, getting investment, or anything literally. That's kind of the number one thing.
Yeah.
Unless someone here can think of, a reason you wouldn't want that.
That's how I felt so far, because I'm so close to releasing this thing that like I feel like that's the last piece I need to put out to convince like the next VC, right? Or like the next investor or whatever it is, incubator, to see some revenue numbers, right? And some analytics.
Yeah, exactly. And if the game is fun, but the numbers are low, what matters is, the people who are playing it, what's their engagement with it like? What's the, repeat players and stuff like that? Because anyone can understand, like, if you just haven't had money to scale and market yet, right, that you can get there. and they can help you. So it's like, focus
the
on those
Discord
core
community?
first players.
And like how much retainment you get and how many players are on there?
All those things are great numbers. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Another thing it might be interesting to look at too is outside of fundraising, a lot of the chains are creating grant programs. Now, it won't give you like a year's runway, but it could give you 3 months. If like there's a major milestone that if you hit, now instead of raising, let's say, $1 million, now you raise like $3 million because you've proven more. So that could be something to explore as well.
No, yeah, we actually started with grant applications. It's only been a few months. I've gotten some kickbacks, but they've only led to talks that haven't led to movement. But they're still open, so I'm really hoping I can still get a grant or two. But I think next month when we actually put the trailer out and we've announced our partnerships and everything, hopefully I can come back to them and say, hey, like what's up? Like we're going to move forward with a couple other chains. Hopefully they're interested in moving forward with us. But if not, then like I need to just keep moving ahead. It's just that they are some pretty big names. It's just still a bear market, So it's been tough getting grants thus far.
Well, just know you're not alone. I talk with a lot of builders, and it's the same experience kind of all the way around.
No, there's a little solidarity there for sure.
So we've kind of ran over. Sorry, June, but I think the conversation's been great, and I think like the amount of discussion around it is kind of proven that this is a topic that's top of mind for a lot of y'all. Sorry that we couldn't get Miko here. It sounds like we're going to reschedule, and I'll definitely kind of share that with June and the team, see if we can get that set up here in the G7 Discord. 2 kind of calls to action real quick. 1, suggestions. So like if there's additional guests you would like to have these type of spaces hosted with, or discussions you'd like to explore, tag the G7 team, let them know. And then also, if you haven't checked it out yet, Game 7 released pretty big, massive, important research report just yesterday called the Game 7 State of Web3 Gaming Report. And it gives you like a deep dive into like the current trends of the industry and maybe how you can structure your startup around it to be even more successful than you would have been potentially without those insights and information. Yeah, June just posted right there. Yeah. Helios, have you hosted podcast? Yeah, man. Come on, you don't know about my podcast, bro? Come on, man. I've been podcasting for like 6 months. No, yeah, I got a little podcast deal. All right, cool. Thanks, everyone.
Cool.
I'll pass it over to you, June. Sorry for talking so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, yeah, as No Autopilot just mentioned, I know this wasn't precisely what we were looking for, but I really appreciate Josh for stepping up. And, positively, we did get a lot of important topics and questions from the community that we can use for Miko and similar discussions in the future. And I'm happy we got together and got to share stories on how we were able to, get to this point and what we can do to help each other to get to the next stage. So not so bad, and we'll learn from each lesson. So it'll be better the next time, and hope we have you guys back for that one too. So we'll wrap it up here. We do have community hangouts. Michael's sitting in there chilling right now. If you guys want to hang out more, we'll be in the Game 7 Live voice channel right below this one. If not, we'll connect another time. Oh, by the way, I think we have a lot of new members who came from reading the report. Would love to talk to you guys. Just shoot me a message anywhere. I'm happy to share my Calendly. Would love to learn, what your thoughts on Game 7 is about the report, what you're hoping to get out of, participating in this community and such. So looking forward to chatting with you all. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.
Bye.